Hello, and welcome to another edition of No Lights Paranormal, where three nerdy paranormal investigators sit down and discuss spooky stories from the web. My name is Joe. I'm the lead investigator and non-alien believer.
My name is Teresa. I am the researcher, and jury's still out.
My name is Alex. I am the equipment setter-upper, the Baba Yaga enthusiast, and the tinfoil hat
Enthusiast?
Yeah.
I'll say, you sound like you were going to go with something else there.
I don't know.
I don't actually remember. So it was a job that I had, and I don't remember why, but one of the technicians who worked there made me a tinfoil hat. I still have it. It's up in the bag of my shit that I had when I worked there, up on top of the bookshelf. Yeah, so I have a tinfoil hat.
So you can also call me the rabbit hole follower.
Yeah, but that's all of us, though.
Might have had something to do with aliens, too. I can't remember.
Yeah. More than likely. I mean, the tinfoil hat thing goes with the aliens, government conspiracies, and a whole bunch. It goes down the rabbit hole itself.
I mean, there's a lot. It's just conspiracy central, right?
Yeah.
Aliens are, oddly enough, conspiracy central.
Yeah.
Right?
It's always tied in with the government.
Government conspiracy, religious conspiracy, maybe.
Depending on the religion, yeah.
Just weird. Super
so, if
weird.
you haven't guessed, we are actually talking about aliens on this roundtable.
Aliens!
Belief or non-belief.
UFOs, aliens.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know. They're all the same, I guess, right?
Yeah. Well, no. But, again, I'm not being technical. I'm just saying none of a UFO is just an unidentified flying object. So, if you throw a rock in the air and someone catches on your phone, it doesn't mean it's a fucking alien.
Right.
Just means it's you don't know what it is. So, yeah. That's the definition. I'm pretty sure.
I mean, we can go with the UFO theory. We got you.
But yes, we're going to be talking about that this evening. And as I've said previous, I do not actually believe in aliens as the little green men from Mars. I don't believe in that. I think it's a bunch of poppycock. Yeah.
So to kind of get this all started, I want to give just a little bit of a background on why we decided to actually make this particular roundtable this month.
Good reward.
Yeah, that too. But it's also because I actually got a message from a gentleman by the name of Robert Stanley on of all things, our LinkedIn account, which has proven to be pretty frigging awesome for contacting people in our field.
Can we pause for just a second? So before we get into that, because I feel like that's a really good intro, what I would like to do is go around the table a little bit here. And again, you don't have to agree with little green men or UFOs or like alien spaceships or this or that. But I want to get where everybody actually stands.
Okay. I get you.
From like whatever basis. So I'll start off,
beyond
for instance. All right. Space is too damn big for us to only be there. Mathematically, it's just impossible. I believe in aliens. I don't know if again, I have no reason to. I've never seen an alien, never seen a UFO that I know of.
Yeah.
But law of probability, I believe they're out there. There's a lot of people that haven't seen ghosts.
Yeah.
I hunt those. I've seen them. So my stance stands as very open-minded to it all.
All right, that's fair. That's fair assessment.
I dig it.
You.
Sure. So I have seen what you can consider a UFO, an unidentified object in the sky, which obviously was flying or would have been in the sky. That, by definition, makes it a UFO. I have most definitely seen a couple of things throughout my life, not many, 2 or 3 events, where there has been something that I just have no idea what it was. One specific event, I grew up on a farm, and I've probably mentioned that before. Anyway, we had a whole lot of acres that was surrounded by a whole lot of acres that belonged to a whole lot of different farmers. And when you put it all together, it basically equaled a metric buttload of acreage where there were no lights, no telephone poles, no cell phone towers. These things just were not out there. It was farmland, fields, and a relatively large patch of forest in between all of the different farmlands that were owned. And up above the trees, I did see something. I don't know what it was. It had red flashing lights. There were 4 lights that seemed to go across the front of this, whatever it was, and they were blinking slowly. First take would be airplane. Definitely an airplane with, the
Right.
blinking lights on the edges of the wings. Well, I'm positive it was not an airplane for a couple of different reasons. For starters, there was no white headlight. Secondly, wings on an airplane generally tend to have red and green flashers. And they generally have one on either wing on the far end of the wing.
Yeah.
This did not look like that. This was just very slow flashing, and there were 4 of them across the entire front of whatever this object was. And secondly, it was making no noise whatsoever that I could hear. It's possible that it was, single prop engine, something like that, and it just wasn't making a lot of noise, and it was far enough away that I just did not hear it. So incredibly possible, but I personally did not hear a noise coming from it. And it was holding still. I would say hovering, I guess is a good way to say it.
Yeah.
So it did not appear in the trajectory where I could see it from. It did not appear to be moving across the sky. It appeared to be hovering above the tree line. That doesn't mean that I was just looking at it from, forward facing and didn't notice that it was moving. And this was quite a long time ago before drones were really a thing.
Right. I was given that for
reference.
assemblies.
Yeah. Close enough.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know what it was. It didn't land. There wasn't any smoke. There wasn't any, cattle mutilations. Nothing crazy happened. Little green men did not pop out. None of the above. And it only lasted for maybe, and most UFO sightings seem to be pretty fleeting. This actually lasted for probably a solid 25 to 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And then it zipped off sort of forward and towards, I believe it would have been the south. And it was just gone, in the blink of a freaking eye. Very, very quickly. A lightning bug just bounced off of my head. That was interesting. It was an alien. So that was kind of cool. Again, I don't know what it was. Do I believe that it was an alien craft? No. No, I do not. I believe that it was something interesting in the sky that I don't know what it was. Do I believe in little green men? Nope. Sure don't. I believe some really weird shit happens out there. And it's not currently explainable with the knowledge that we have on a broad spectrum as the people who live in this world. Could it be government? Maybe. Could it be scientific experiment? Maybe. Is it alien life from another planet? I don't think so. I just don't think so.
Okay. That's it?
Yep.
Okay. All right. I guess it's my turn. I want to preface it by saying this. I do believe in other life forms out there. I just don't believe in the current form of what people believe aliens to be, of these ultra smart beings that come from distant galaxies to come over and share their knowledge. I don't. If they're sharing our knowledge with us and we're this dumb, I don't. But I do believe that there is life out there, just in a different form. I do believe that there are single-cell organisms on other planets that aren't like us, but they're like amoebas and other that are on other planets that are living and alive.
You're talking the beginning stages of biological life.
Possibly, yes.
Gotcha.
Or is it's just organisms living?
Sure.
I do believe in that. I do believe there's bacteria and all that other stuff out there on other planets that we do not know about. I get it. Not saying that those don't exist. I wholeheartedly believe, because yes, you're right. The scientific and mathematical probability of something else existing out there is too great to not think something else is out there. However, I stop it at the little green men from Mars and the people coming in from spaceships from galaxies away who have figured out light speed, but afraid of a civilization that has barely figured out the wheel yet. I don't. And you made a point a couple of weeks ago of saying that, we observe hamsters all that, but we're not afraid of the hamsters.
Yeah, we're not afraid of the hamsters.
So I get it. It's an interesting train of thought. It's an interesting rabbit hole to go down of another civilization out there doing something like us, like John Carter from Mars. Everybody thought that movie was a flop. I love sci-fi. Even though I don't believe in aliens, I love sci-fi because it's an interesting train of thought.
Right.
But to believe in something just because it's interesting is not logical to me.
Got you.
So I do believe in life out there, just not in the current form of their coming to anal probe us.
Like what you're saying, scientifically speaking, I 100% believe that there is factual evidence of living things on other planets.
No.
100% believe it. I do not, however, think that they are, intellectual human-like beings that travel galaxies upon galaxies to come and, hang out with us.
Yeah. Now, I will preface it by saying that I get why they wouldn't share the light speed technology with us, because human beings have a tendency to get something that is helpful for mankind and use it to blow up something.
If there are aliens out there on another planet, why the fuck would they come here and show us, of all the beings that supposedly exist, why would they show humans, mankind, how to get back to their planet so that we can fuck it up like we did our own?
Technically, if that is true, they haven't, because we haven't been there.
Exactly.
As far as we know. But, yeah.
Let's run all their resources dry, too, It's cool.
I mean, let's face it. In all the sci-fi movies where they get the horrific alien being coming to drain every resource off the planet, that's literally us.
Yeah. We are the parasite of our own world.
That is literally us. So,
yeah, I don't think they're going to welcome us back where they're from.
But no, it's more to the point of, and I know where a lot of people are going to go with it, like, oh, we have, Hitler got into, for as crazy he was, his army got into certain alien crafts and he was researching all of that. Yeah, that's all well and dandy, but scientists are pretty fucking smart.
Yeah. Yeah.
They can figure out some shit, and we've all met, I don't care who you are, 10, 50, I don't care who you are. You've always met that person that dude or chick is smart as hell. They are way smarter than me.
Yeah.
They can figure things out that I can't even do.
Yeah.
Those kind of people are in a lab working, creating shit. So yes, they can create things that we don't know about, and then when we see it, we're like, oh my God, it's aliens. No, it's some egghead in a freaking lab invented that, and he's test flying his shit.
It's some super smart guy being super smart.
Yeah. And I even go as far as this, and I kind of wanted to say this for later, but I kind of grew up in a military family. I had a lot of uncles and a lot of cousins who were in the military.
Yeah.
One of them was guarding Hangar 18 at the time of the Roswell incident. Down in Dayton, I'm sorry. I had a cousin who is a legit rocket scientist. I only figured that out because I made the joke, and he looked at me, he's like, yeah, I actually am. But he worked in Area 51.
Wow.
Now,
the Ohio area.
No. And actually, the actual Area 51.
Oh, he worked in Arizona?
Yes.
Or was it Nevada?
Nevada. I think.
Yeah, he worked out there.
Gotcha.
Now, granted,
somewhere in the desert.
Oh, the way you said that, I, for whatever reason, was thinking Wright-Patterson.
No. My uncle did, but my cousin worked out in.
Oh, yes. I get what you're saying.
So I have kind of inside information. Now, granted, I don't want to get my cousin in trouble. He did not divulge any military secrets or anything like that. He knew the contract that he signed. He didn't divulge any information. And at a certain point in time, he told me he's done talking about it. But what he did let me know was pretty much common knowledge. Area 51 ain't got shit in it for aliens.
No, and to be fair, it's in certain groups technically known to be the I don't know, how do you refer to it? Like the stepchild, the mirage for the whole
sleight of hand. Yeah.
The whole, look over here. No, it's really over there.
Yeah. Yeah, the government, like I said, I'm not meaning to get into conspiracy theory form here, but there's a lot of...
We're doing an alien episode.
Yeah, we're going to get into it. But what I'm saying is the government, they have an obligation to keep some things secret, because why would they let the widespread public know secret things that they're working on for either warfare or just because they're bored? They don't have to let us know everything that they do. And to be honest with you, we pay them to do that. That's what we want our government. Like, you guys do what you got to do. I don't want to know about it. They do create certain things in some military bases to test them out. And I think that is what we're seeing flying in the sky. Now, I will say this. Meteorites, I do believe, have certain, we talked about the organisms and things that live. If they're coming from outer space, yes, I do believe there's something on that. Whether or not we know about it or not is up for debate. But meteorites do crash to Earth quite regularly.
It happens a lot.
Yeah. There could be something on there that they are working with an experimental metal that they did not know about because it came from fucking outer space. So, yeah, and I know,
Honestly, I mean, there could even be a small plant life or amoebas or viruses attached to these things that could be considered alien life because it's alien to us here.
Right.
But it's literally just teeny tiny cell organisms.
Yeah.
So if there are aliens here on Earth, I believe that's exactly what they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, Alex, you were the believer in aliens, and I know you got some stories because I can see the look on your face. So go ahead, brother, hit me with them.
All right. I'm going to start out as basic and simple as this. Sitting around this table, how much folklore do we believe in and why?
I believe in folklore for it to be folklore. That there's some basis of truth to it.
You've seen the Fae, right?
Yeah. Yes. But I've seen the Fae. That doesn't mean I know the entire history of the Fae.
It's fair.
So, folklore is folklore, and there's a reason why it's called folklore.
I believe that pretty much all stories probably had some small kernel of truth in their origin, but since then have been told and retold and retold and retold and so many different times that a lot of them probably just don't anymore.
What? Hold on. My brain must have misfired.
Mine too.
Hence folklore.
Yeah.
You know, I definitely believe that at some point in the past, all of these little scary stories, folklore, whatever you want to call it, had some small kernel of truth.
Oh, yeah.
They just have been told and told so many times that they've been blown out of proportion, and details have been added that were never there before.
Yep.
Important details that were there aren't anymore.
Give me one example.
Werewolves,
Okay.
Just jumped into it.
vampires,
Okay.
chupacabra.
Vampires are real, though, just not in the way we think.
Exactly not in the way we think. It's been blown out of proportion.
Yeah.
But now you're teetering somewhere between folklore and cryptozoology. All right.
There's not a big, huge difference between ancient cryptozoology and folklore.
So do you believe that at any time, any point in time, or at some point in time, dragons actually existed?
I most definitely believe that there is a possibility that dragons could have existed based off of what we know from the fossil record and evolution.
Okay. What makes you believe that?
Literal fossils. And a lot of them, especially like the large reptiles of the past, had a whole lot of structure that were built very, very similar to birds with hollow bones and things like that. And we do know, again, from the fossil record and archaeology, that there have been bones in the past that, they might dig up a skull or a beak that might have a little bit more substance to the bone. It's not quite as porous because, as we know, birds and most all creatures that have the ability to fly have extraordinarily lightweight, porous bones. They have to in order to not be weighed down and be able to actually take flight. So we also know that especially as they start getting older and older, or depending on what type of, soil they got buried in or whatever, it's very, very difficult for these bones to actually fossilize because there's not a whole lot to them to calcify.
Right.
So, they'll find a piece, but not even close to the whole thing because it just unfortunately degraded faster than it could calcify and become an actual fossil for us to find. And in no doubt, something like a dragon would have been the exact same way because it would have also had to have a very similar bone structure to modern day birds in order to be able to take flight. Unless you're talking about, little tiny dragons that were like 5 pounds.
Pseudo dragon. Got it.
Yeah, baby dragons, little guys.
The cute ones.
Yeah, the cute ones, exactly. So is it possible that fossils of these... let's look at the T-Rex, for example. We have plenty of T-Rex skulls that do not have bodies to go with them, or things that we think of as T-Rexes. Is it possible that this could have been a dragon, and we have that skull, and the skull was thick enough to calcify, but we do not have the wings and the ribs and the bone structure that goes with the wings because they were too porous and they simply did not fossilize.
The only thing I will say to that is scientists have been wrong about dinosaurs before.
Exactly.
There's actually a dinosaur out there that doesn't actually fucking exist.
Yes.
Because the scientists got the head wrong and just saw another body close to it and was like, oh, that's the body. I think
For an example, while we were growing, I was just going to say that while we were growing up, the Brontosaurus was like the, oh my God, everybody thinks those are awesome.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as a Brontosaurus. It does not exist and it never has.
So what you're saying is science can be wrong.
Correct. Or we simply don't have enough information because as the world turns, fossils degrade.
But by that right, what I would say is, according to what you just said, the reason that you believe the dragons existed was due to science and not necessarily that people from every continent on Earth, separated by oceans, all have the same stories of this in ancient times.
And that's where I'm getting at, that there is folklore. Folklore does have some kernel of truth at its origin, and it's very, very possible that dragon folklore could also have that same kernel of truth. Now, did dragons breathe fire? No. Did they pick up entire carriages and fly away? No. Because their bone structures are too weak. They don't have the ability to do that if they're built like birds. And biologically speaking, we do not have any evidence suggesting that a non-hollow porous boned animal could possibly take flight. The wing structure scientifically would be not really a possibility. The wings would have to be way too big to make even a 30-pound animal fly. Way too big. So if you're talking about something that has a reasonable size wings, let's talk about what they would say a dragon. Let's say a 60-foot dragon. Awesome. There's no possible way scientifically that a 120-foot wingspan on a, basically half a ton dragon, it couldn't fly.
No.
It couldn't happen. It can't happen. Scientifically, it cannot happen. Biologically, it cannot happen. Exactly. And we don't know, scientifically speaking, any other possibility. If they were to come out tomorrow and be like, oh, my bad, pterodactyls totally had solid bones. Oh, okay, cool. Well, then how did they fly? And if they tell us, well, this is what we think, well, okay, cool. Well, maybe dragons were real then. But as of the moment, the only thing we have to go off of is the current science suggesting they would have to be hollow boned, which means the sizes that people talk about in folklore could not exist. And yes, I understand you're getting at the idea that all across the world, all different types of peoples from all different types of cultures and all different types of backgrounds have spoken of alien life. And they've also spoken of dragons. There are dragons in every culture around the world. Quetzalcoatl, the Mayans, he was a dragon, a serpent-like dragon, and he was worshipped as a god. And people wholeheartedly believed that he was real. All across the world. Vikings 100% believed in dragons and even talked about having epic battles defeating dragons. Because of all of this scientific evidence that we have and the scientific knowledge that we have regarding bones and fossils and archaeology, we know that it is not probable, but very, very possible that the bones have simply degraded to the point that they did not fossilize and that dragons were in fact real creatures. Because of all the science behind it. With that said, you stated that I am confident that dragons existed. I did not say that. What I said was that it is wholeheartedly possible that dragons existed based on the current scientific knowledge that we have. Possible, not probable. Do I want to ride a dragon? Fuck yeah, I do.
I mean, clearly, we've all seen House of Dragons.
Yeah, come on.
Probably all still
Yeah.
watch. Everybody at this table is still watching it.
I would love to believe that dragons were real. What an awesome epic bad guy that would
Dude,
be.
no.
Oh God, that'd be friggin' amazing.
No, that's one of the things I don't wish existed. Because yes, while it would be cool from the imagination standpoint, like, man, that's badass. Oh shit, it's setting fire to everything and we can't be
But it's the same thing. Tyrannosaurus Rex ate people.
Did it?
Or we're assuming.
Scientists has come out and said that it's an herbivore, not a carnivore.
How could it be? We know that animals these days that have pointed teeth eat meat, and they did too.
Yeah, just because you have pointed teeth doesn't mean there's some hard ass roots out there.
All right.
It wouldn't be conducive to chomping on plants because there's nothing to smash and grind.
All right. Let me take a different stab at this.
Oh, I'm sorry. You didn't quite get in what you needed to on that one, so you got to try it.
No, I got in exactly what I needed on that one.
Me being long-winded? Sorry.
No, we didn't do that.
No, no, just
I apologize. I don't apologize.
just making minor points. So let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
If I would have come to you, say, 5 years ago, would you have told me that Bigfoot was real?
No, 5 years ago, I would have told you that Bigfoot is an interesting bit of folklore.
How do you feel since then?
Since then, I wholeheartedly believe that there is something out there that we are unfamiliar with. Is it a man-ape hybrid? I don't know.
Stepping away from that, though, the point would be, at some point, there is something that did/could, in this instance, happen that would be like, nope, I was wrong.
That could potentially change somebody's opinion. Wholeheartedly
That happens
agree.
every day.
Show me something hard, something solid, something tangible
Again,
that tells me that there are aliens, and I'll go with you.
I can't necessarily.
Let some massive, God only knows what it was, event happen where a log that one single adult male could not pick up on his own all of a sudden flies at least 20 feet straight out from a tree as if it's literally targeting you. Something
Sorry,
fucking
Jeff.
through it.
Yeah.
Something fucking through it.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact it was not a human being because a human being does not have strength like that. When you can
Oh,
show
wow.
me
Yeah.
that in alien form, I'll give it another thought.
Huh?
They're small and green. They don't need to have levitation devices.
And to be fair, let's get this out of the way right off the rip. I don't believe in Martians.
Right.
All right. I don't believe in small little green men, yada, yada, yada. If anything, I would take more of a quote unquote Star Trek approach as to where, like, there's a lot of weird, different shit out there that we just don't know about.
Oh, of course.
You know what I mean?
Space is like the final frontier. No,
Exactly.
it's like the ocean. It's undiscovered. It's undiscovered
Right.
territory.
And to be fair,
we
I
have
think,
no clue what's out there.
Yeah.
and to be fair, I think a lot of people really quite literally, as much as you think about it, or as much as even certain people would think about it, I don't believe a lot of people can even fathom it, how big it is.
No,
I agree.
it's gigantic. It's unfathomable to figure out the size of the actual universe.
We live on a planet where, we literally look at things in size matter. Block to block, we know what a foot looks like, yada, yada, yada. When you say spaces, there's no end.
Yeah, infinite. What the hell does infinite actually mean? You have no comprehensible way to fathom that.
We are a grain of sand
Exactly.
in the
Exactly.
ocean of the universe.
But people, that's not fathomable.
You can take that. That's a good quote. No, it's the same thing as when I was younger and I fathomed or thought about the God has always been.
Mm.
There's no way my mortal brain can think of that. It's just like you've always been. Actually, when I was younger, I thought, God, how bored are you? But
Right.
Right?
yeah,
I don't want to always be, for sure.
that explains us. But
Yeah.
no, it's something that our mortal brains cannot. You're right. We can't wrap our heads around it because we don't have the capacity to think like that.
That, and to be fair,
There
we
are
don't have
some
the
of us-
capacity to see it.
There are
Period.
some of us that do. We have the capacity to see it. It's just, it reminds me of my favorite sci-fi movie, Firefly. It's like when somebody asks, like, "Oh, what do you think is out there?"
Best series ever,
Yeah.
by the way.
And then one of the characters goes, "God, what do you think is out there?" And the one character listening goes, "More space." That's it. It's just more space.
That's
That's it.
or, in the words of my son, when he was bouncing on a trampoline next door, I don't fucking know.
Yeah, right.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fun thing to sit down and think around a campfire where you're having a relaxing, having a beer, and just think like, man, how infinite is space? How can I put that into an earthly perspective?
I gotta be honest, unless you are high as a fucking kite, you can't even start getting your brain into that.
Oh, you can.
You smoke yourself a joint, man, and you could think about it for a while.
No, you can do it sober. It's a little less inventive.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little less inventive for sure.
Oh.
I think it's definitely one of those like 12 packs around a bonfire speeches.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
But I do believe there is something out there, and again, I am a professed Christian. I do believe there is something out there other than God in space that was either created or has always been. I just don't know what it is. But I am not ready to say that they're coming to Earth, looking to probe our species, looking to do this. I don't. Show me someone that has had that hasn't been Mary Jane the camper. Like
Cletus or Velveeta.
right.
Clog up trailer parks
So-
every third business.
It's all, hold on, and let me explain this. It's always someone who has either had some traumatic experiences that had nothing to do with it, traumatic experiences in their life. They were either being beat by their significant other, or they were just on hard times.
Yeah.
It's
or
there's-
cops,
yes.
oddly enough.
There's always a story, and I'm not saying I disbelieve them. If they believe what they saw, that's fine and dandy. They can believe it. But there's always other circumstances in the story that kind of counteract the story that they're telling. And like when you were looking it up earlier and you saw that picture and this guy's like, oh my God, there's a UFO. And it was clearly
it was so clearly just
a
bullshit.
helicopter.
It wasn't even well photoshopped. It was just plain bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just, now I will say this. If a president or former president was come on this porch right now and say live on this podcast, yeah, aliens are real. I have proof. Do you want to see it? Okay. I was wrong. Let me see it. Show me proof. I want to see it. I'll even keep my mouth shut. I will sign an affidavit. I will sign a thing. I will keep my freaking mouth shut.
I won't tell nobody.
So here's the trick, right? Or at least here's part of the trick for me is if we think about 5 years ago and previous to 5 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, you see plenty of Bigfoot hunting shows on TV. And it's always like the fucking crackpots, right? You're like, eh. But we, us three sitting at this table, we are ghost hunters, right? We believe in the afterlife.
We are the crackpots.
No. Let me finish my thought. Despite the fact that we have seen things that make us believe in the afterlife and spirits and ghosts, there's not one person sitting at this table right now that can't sit down and watch a random ghost hunting show on TV and be like, this guy's fucking nuts.
Yeah.
Not calling anybody out.
Yeah. No. Well, I will. But I will.
Dick Baggins.
But point being, I feel like there are always those certain
off there.
I feel like there's always those certain outliers that make it seem like everybody else is full of shit because they seem so full of shit that everybody's like, that shit.
Yeah. Everybody has to be full of shit because that man had so much shit.
For me, much like things like dragons and dinosaurs to an extent and this and that, I look at ancient peoples more than I look at nowadays peoples.
Yeah.
Nowadays peoples have heard all the stories. They can make up whatever the fuck shit they want to.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
you know what? Maybe it seems crazy. Maybe it doesn't seem crazy to some people. But are you going to tell me somebody from the Lakota tribe or somebody from the Hopi tribe or ancient Egyptians just came up with this shit out of the blue?
No.
Indigenous peoples did, in fact, have, and I say indigenous because not all of them are Native American. There's lots of different types
Right.
of
I mean, again, we're talking about
all over the world. Yeah,
Egyptians. We're talking about people like the Russian indigenous tribes.
yeah,
We're
literally.
talking about-
Indigenous people in general definitely have had a whole lot of stories over the years, just as many, if not more, than modern day folks.
Okay.
So, yeah,
I'm
I
going
get
to say
that.
this, and I want everyone to listen very closely. If you were to walk outside right now, I preferably do it when it's at night so you can see. If you were to walk outside right now and look straight up, what would you see?
I live in Barberton, so not much. If we were Indigo, probably a lot. A lot of stars.
But even still, even in Indigo, there's introduction from light from other cities. There's the invention of the light dimmed the skies for us.
Mm-hmm.
This can either go for or against. The indigenous people, before light was invented, before we had street lights and all that other electricity that we rely on a daily basis, the skies were clear and open.
Yeah.
You go out into the woods late at night, out in PFE, you look straight up, you will see so many fucking stars.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah.
It's actually eye-opening. It's gorgeous.
It is amazing.
I have no doubt that they did see something in the sky. I just cannot definitively say it was a UFO or an alien. It could have been a comet streaking across the sky, and they're like, because I'm not calling them dumb, but they had limited knowledge of things in outer space back then.
Yeah.
So, yes, I believe they did see something in the sky, but that's where the folklore comes in, because you see something in the sky, your mind, much like ghost hunting, your mind can't wrap around it at the time, so you create things in your head to explain what you just saw because you cannot think of it.
Yes.
Like pantheons, like gods.
Even then.
So, and then if you really want to get into that, we absolutely can. Let's
I
talk.
think we are.
Let's talk for a moment about ancient pantheons. Let's talk about ancient gods. Let's talk about the Greeks just for a brief moment here. The Greeks had oracles, and oracles were what you might want to equate to like a priest, if you will.
Yeah, they were modern day psychics. But
Yeah,
yes, they were like
sort of
holy
the middleman, if you will, between the gods and men.
the spiritual.
It has been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that oracles were high as a goddamn kite every second of their life.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they saw some shit, all right.
Oh, no, no.
Did that make what they were seeing real? No.
In Greece, you're absolutely correct.
I'm not saying they were all head cases.
In Greece, you're absolutely correct. They have proven beyond a shadow of doubt that there were certain gases in certain caves that would be hallucinogenic.
Yep. And they sought them out specifically for the oracles to inhabit those places so that they would be affected by these different chemicals and gases that would allow them what they considered
Now,
to bridge that gap between the real world and the spirit
now,
world.
this is where I'll have you pause. And you're the mistress of research.
Mm.
Show me that place in Egypt. Show me that place where the Two-a-Day resided in Ireland. Show me that place in Norse mythology. In Greece, yes, they had those caverns that were full of gases that
You can't
the
tell me
oracles
that the
stayed.
only places in the world that there were hallucinogenic gases coming up from the earth was just in Greece and the rest of the world had nothing. That would be just plain geologically ignorant.
You're the researcher
Hold
and
on.
you have Google. Show me where those places are.
Hold on. Did I have no other word to say this, but did Irish people actually have oracles?
No.
No. So, all right. Let me get to the point where I was going with that, right? The Two-a-Day were larger than life.
Yeah, I know what the two-a-day.
You know this. I know this. We are very, if anything,
Sorry, I forgot we were on a podcast. But go
if anything, more than others, we are very Irish mythology oriented
right.
in this household, anyway. They were larger than life. They were, to an extent, what you would almost consider gods. The irony with the Irish deities
Yeah.
ish, where they were all at one point in time living people that were just elevated.
Yeah. They were
Right?
human beings, yes.
I feel like there were a lot of deities that were in pantheons, not whatever.
No.
That were kind of along the same lines. Again, it all came back to maybe back then looking for an explanation.
So they had oracles, they just called them something different.
No.
Perhaps.
For example.
No, because even druids, they didn't, their connection with gods, if you will, was it's not the same thing as an oracle pretending
But yeah, I know.
to speak to the gods and literally just saying all of the things that the king wanted to hear so that they didn't get murdered.
I mean, that's true. So technically, the only two civilizations that I know of that quote unquote had, nope, there's three. Three that had oracles of somewhere on the same lines. You have the Greeks who had their, let's just call it what it is, gas chambers. You had Norse who had oracles, but they were also high on psilocybin.
Right.
And you had the Egyptians who had oracles, but they consumed lotus from the Nile River.
Mm-hmm.
Lotus is a hallucinogenic.
Yep.
So in
something growing in my backyard in camera.
in continuing to prove my point, I think that particular topic of discussion has no leg to stand on.
It does, but it doesn't. And I'll say this. It's a different way of looking at things because there's been a long study of, and I'll even go on the religious aspect of this, the Garden of Eden, that there's been some religious scholars to say that our eyesight back then was a lot different because we didn't know what sin was. Sin didn't cover up everything. So when Eve ate the apple and then Adam ate it because Eve wanted them to, our eyes were closed to the veil. We lost that eyesight to see beyond what is just here in this mortal world. So there's been a scientific study to debate on what do drug uses, hallucinogenics, do they slightly lift that veil to where you can see into what we used to see on a regular basis?
DMT.
There is an actual discussion about that. Whether or not it's true, I have no idea. I'm just saying.
I want to split that into two pieces. As far as the Garden of Eden and our eyesight, not seeing into the veil after, et cetera, whatever. I think that that's a whole bunch of hooky. Yeah. I think it's mega hooky because the Bible back in those days, in the Old Testament, it strictly spoke against things that were not demon. Oh, I'm sorry, my puppy just got upset. There were no human spirits. They didn't exist, so there would have been no veil.
I wasn't talking about spirits. And the veil I was talking about is us seeing what nowadays would be considered the third dimension.
I just don't believe in multiple dimensions.
And technically, back in those days, they did exist, and it was talked about. And in fact, somewhere in one of the Testament, it said, you shouldn't dwell in the land of the dead.
Yeah.
Right. Well, you're talking about Adam and Eve, which were the very first peoples.
I was using it as a reference for the drug lifting.
That I understand. But yeah, there was no people to have been dead prior to the first people. So
angel.
But angels are not, it's not the same thing.
Well, no, I wasn't.
Oh, the Anunnaki. Got you.
You're thinking of just the spiritual realm as ghost. I'm talking the spiritual realm as something different other than dead people. The spiritual realm to me is to see like the soul of a tree, to see the blade of grass.
I do not believe that humans ever had that ability.
Well, I mean, that's fair. You're allowed to believe that. I'm just saying that's what they pretty much, and I'll put this in layman's terms, that our brain was 100% unlocked, that we had full cognizant ability of all of our facets of our brain usage. And then because of sin, it blocked. This is the report that I read, and it wasn't done by a religious scholar. It was done by a scientific scholar. That is what blocked. And mind you, I just use Adam and Eve as a reference.
Now, let me ask you something. What about the idea that children see more than adults?
Oh, I wholeheartedly.
Do you think that it's the same idea?
Innocence.
So you think that the age before sin and the innocence of children...
before understanding.
I'm talking the whole Adam and Eve thing prior to sin.
Okay.
And the innocence of children, same idea? They see more because of that?
Yes. Because knowledge is very powerful, but it is also damning in a way.
I hear what you're saying, and I think it's a good course. I don't believe that humans ever had the ability to see the soul of a tree, despite the fact that I'm positive it has one.
Right.
I don't, and the reason I don't think so is because the Bible does not, if you're going to go off the Bible, biblically, it never speaks of us being able to see things like that.
Oh, yeah, it does.
No, it doesn't. And
Adam actually walked along with God and talked to God right next to each other.
Yeah.
All right.
But God,
after he sinned, he couldn't look upon them.
But God isn't the soul of a tree.
No, what I'm saying is that, yeah, I know where you're going with that. what I'm saying is we were able to see that because we didn't sin. And yes, you were free to debate that all you want. I was just using it as an analogy to go with this course. But I do believe we were able to see things that we cannot not.
All right. So this is where I'm going to, I guess, start and lead in with the actual, I won't call it alien, but extraterrestrial stuff, right?
Right.
Almost every ancient culture on the planet, again,
Yeah.
the Lakota, the Egyptians, the Sumerians, talk about star children.
Yeah.
These are depicted in cave drawings, right along things like gazelle and lamb and sheep.
No.
They clearly knew what the fuck they were drawing.
True.
I also want to point out a very interesting fact, and you can Google this and research this all you want.
No, she's going down a rabbit hole now.
I am.
The Great Pyramids.
Yeah.
In Alexandria in Egypt. The height of the Great Pyramid is the average height of every major mountain peak in the world.
Yeah.
Think that's an accident?
Well, it may have also been a mountain at some point, but no, I don't believe it's an accident. Because isn't there a theory that they tie up with like Stonehenge and all
They
those
do.
other, yeah.
And to be fair, there are, it's not just Egypt. As you know, Mexico,
Right.
they have found some in Europe. There are pyramids in
Right.
almost every culture.
There's even one in Antarctica under the sea. There's one at the Bermuda Triangle and all that. Alaska and all that other stuff. Hold on, I had a thought and it just left my head.
Go ahead, you're good.
No, I'm trying to remember it.
I think we warned people this was going to be a thick sode, and you know what? Despite my prior claims that this is probably the only time we're going to talk aliens, it might not be.
No.
Only because I've got a real shit memory, and I'm going to want to bring up some shit later.
There is, in every culture in the world, a kind of like a mid end of the world, meaning like the Great Flood, the earthquake, the meteor, stuff like that. Evolution, where the landmass is split.
Actually, it's kind of amazing how many of those tie together.
Right. And that's where I'm kind of going with it. So, ancient Egypt, all these, pyramids, Stonehenge, maybe at one point they were all connected and they were close enough to where people could like line it up in a way, almost survey it. And then once the flood, earthquake, Titanic splits, all that, we really don't know the civilization that happened or the civilization that was here before recorded history. We really don't know it because
we don't.
It's kind of like, I'm not going to write that down. I'm too busy building shit. So maybe at one point in time, they were close enough to actually survey that shit.
Well, here's the interesting part about the Sumerians, because again, it would be in the same day and age where, like you said, like survival is important, right?
Wholeheartedly, yes.
It's hunter-gatherer society back then.
Kill or be killed.
So the irony is, as far as we know right now, the Sumerians had the oldest ancient text available.
Right.
I believe it was like the Tablet of Kings or something like that.
Something along them lines, yeah.
You can find it in a lot of places. Google it. What made it so that they had time to stop hunting, stop doing this, stop doing that? I have time to make up a language and write all this shit down.
Right.
In a day and age where you would think that
D&D.
You know what I mean?
No, I get what you're meaning. Like, when did the realization come in and like, oh, maybe we should mark this down for history? I can't honestly say.
I don't know that it was necessarily thought of as being marked down for history as much as being marked down
for record's sake,
for, teaching the young and whatnot.
But to that point, language wasn't even, written language wasn't a thing.
True. Well, it was, but it wasn't. Hieroglyphics.
Or after the Sumerians.
No. But I'm saying, like, I was just using that as an instance. Like, they had ways of talking in a language that we just don't know now. I'm pretty sure there were some Sumerian text where they had a language, and there was symbols drawn and everything. That's how they communicate, almost like thieves' camp for those of you that play D&D.
Right.
Something along
that's kind of the point. It was they were the first ones to design that.
But I know the point you're getting at is that someone had to teach them that somewhere along the line. somehow, someone had to say, hey, you might want to record this.
One more time, I want you to repeat to me what you had said about the height of the pyramid in Giza.
It is the average height of all of the peaks.
The average height of all of what peaks?
I heard it earlier. I could not
Right.
definitively tell you this. Again, I listen to people that are smarter than I am. All right.
Didn't Tyson say that? Not Mike Tyson, but Neil deGrasse Tyson. Didn't he say something along them lines?
Maybe. I don't know.
I think I remember hearing it saying maybe it was on a Joe Rogan podcast or something like that, but I do remember him saying something similar to that. That the biggest pyramid is the same height as, I don't want to say Everest.
No, not the same height as Everest, but
Yeah.
the same. It's the average height of like most of the mountain peaks, or most of the mountain peaks back then at that time.
Yeah. No, I mean, that makes sense. They would be able to rebuild it up because they would see it. Well, yeah, they would still be able to see it. But again, that was how many years ago? We don't know the terrain back then.
No.
We can kind of guess to it with carbon dating, but carbon dating is inaccurate.
Right.
So we can kind of guess to it, but we actually don't know the actual terrain, what it looked like. There could have been a mountain there originally. They just whittled down. We don't know.
We don't know.
To make the pyramid?
Yeah. I have no scientific theory or any proof behind it. That was just me thinking. It could have been an old structure that there was like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we did this? And then, because let's face it, I say this nowadays, we really don't make anything. We just kind of repurpose it.
I am not finding anything I'm not finding anything about that.
Oh.
All right. So here's a weird question for you. And this is, again, people way smarter than me. How many of you have either one of you heard of Planet 5?
Yeah. A long time ago, but yes, I've heard
Mhm.
Which ironically was also referred to the planet Tiamat,
mm-hmm.
which for all you D&D nerds, go figure, 5-headed dragon.
Right.
Planet 5. It used to be round about where we sit in the solar system, between Mars and Jupiter.
Yeah.
There was an explosion of Tiamat, which supposedly, ironically, and again, I'm not a science guy. I don't believe in the Big Bang Theory to an extent, but the irony is Earth was supposedly a chunk of Planet 5 that fell off and still caught orbit around the sun. That's what we are.
That's a perfect chunk.
Planet 5 is a scientific hypothetical. It's not even theoretical. It's completely hypothetical, which means that they have zero proof whatsoever that it ever existed. So it is literally a hypothetical scenario suggesting how Earth might have come to pass. There is no data scientifically to back that up.
Well, how could there be?
We have space data from all over the place, actually.
Yeah, but considering it's one of those things that in the, okay, as you want to put it, hypothetical, the explosion that happened when Tiamat exploded and left planet Earth would have been way before human possibility. Like, we would have never seen it exist.
Mm-hmm.
So
There would therefore be no record.
So therefore there would be no record of it ever.
And
like, how do you look back in time?
Geology?
Before there was geology?
There is no before there was geology. We've dug holes in every pit of the earth that we've studied.
So
Something
what
that
you're
used
saying
to-
is that you believe carbon dating is completely accurate.
I never said carbon dating was accurate.
No, I've actually heard her say before it's inaccurate.
All right.
I've
then,
never said
then
that.
geology is out the window.
Geology is more right than it is wrong.
You are a chunk of something that existed before you existed. Therefore, how would geology help you?
Most looks
You never had any geological data from this thing that existed before you did. So don't understand how you say that geology would have proved or disproved it.
Oh, I never said that it would have proved or disproved it. I said that we would have been able to look into that. There's no scientific data suggesting that it did actually exist. There's no scientific data suggesting that it didn't exist.
Okay.
Hence why it's hypothetical.
Most people don't know what hypothetical is. I love when people ask me a hypothetical question and expect an answer.
Yeah, there's no answer
It's
to that. It's
I don't
hypothetical.
know.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're getting at 100%. All I'm saying is that it is in fact hypothetical. So I think that we would be doing ourselves a scientific injustice to speak of it as if it were fact.
All right. How about the planet Ceres?
What about it?
That's not a hypothetical anymore.
No, we know it exists.
All right. And where does Ceres sit?
What are you getting at here?
So Ceres is one of the asteroids that also blew off of Planet 5.
It's hypothetically.
Hypothetically. Except it exists, just like we exist.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm not.
Now, the irony is that the rotation of Ceres does, but also does not. It's a dwarf planet, and it doesn't follow like the same orbit that we do around the sun. It's a weird one that we only see every super so often.
Right.
And it was, what is it? What's the big weird telescope that we have going out
Hubble?
into space?
The Hubble.
Not Hubble.
No, Hubble's the.
No, it's a telescope that we
Yeah.
have going. It's like the James Wood telescope or some.
I think it is Hubble. No, Hubble's the sonar thing. Yeah.
No, Hubble like rotates around us. There's one that we have literally just going out into space.
I think that you are talking about the James Webb
James
telescope.
Webb telescope is the one that discovered Ceres.
Now, one thing that I think is very interesting is, so here's what I would say to that. Let's take a look at the actual makeup. What type of rocks, what types of minerals are in Ceres versus Earth?
I don't know that we have or can even obtain that information. I don't know. I literally, again, I listen to people smarter than me. I don't know. I don't think the telescope landed on Ceres and was like, let me get a sample.
Want that sample platter?
The reason why I'm curious about that is until they can put some sort of a module that can actually land on Ceres and get us a roundabout idea of what it's formed from, if we can show that geologically Ceres and Earth are similar, then okay, cool. I can believe they came from the same place. But I think that we would need that answer before we could turn a hypothetical into anything more than a hypothetical.
Actually, I think the question that we need to ask, and I can't believe I didn't ask this before, what actually makes a planet a planet?
Well, for starters, they have their own center of gravity.
I think it's a certain size land mass is what they consider a planet that has its own center of gravity and revolves around a star.
Okay.
No,
again,
I don't know. Again,
I wanted to say it for the people that are listening, if they're still listening. But
they're like, these guys are fucking nuts. Right?
I know. So I went ahead and just did a quick Google what makes a planet a planet. According to NASA, it must orbit a star, which in our cosmic neighborhood obviously is the sun. It must be big enough to have enough gravity to force into a spherical shape. So planets are round because of the gravity that they have. And it must be big enough that its gravity has cleared away any other objects of similar size near its orbit around its star.
Also, before we go much further, am I like falling down the rabbit hole of outer space?
Oh yeah, we're not really talking about UFOs anymore.
Am I falling down the rabbit hole of outer space? Can I tell you how fucking terrifying the solar system is?
Yeah.
Like, as a whole?
oh yeah, it's waiting to kill you.
Basically.
Quite literally.
Like, shit can just fucking kill you and you don't even know it's coming.
Yeah. And no, we haven't.
This is where you
veered
have
off
to
the-
trust people that are a whole lot smarter than you, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, we saw this.
We
Okay.
haven't really veered off our aliens real. We are kind of going down the scientific rabbit hole.
Yeah,
Trying
we're
to
running
prove-
real close parallel to it is
Yeah.
what we're doing. We're orbiting it.
Because in order to prove something, you have to debunk it first.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what we're doing. We're trying to debunk anything else that could not be originated, same as we do with ghost hunting. Debunk it to prove it to be not real, or debunk it to prove it to be real. I know of a lot of things of, like I said, I've been down this rabbit hole a bunch of times because I get bored very easily. I know of like them putting, UFOs in hieroglyphics. I know them talking about sun children. I know the sun god Ra was not Stargate, but it was actually believed to be an alien.
Is it, I think it's Toth, the one with like the hawk head mask that he wears?
I think it is Toth.
All right.
Or no, Horus was a
falcon, I think.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Clearly, we don't know Egypt mythology, but
it gets sketched. And to be fair, like I studied it for a while, much like I studied all the weird old pantheons because I'm super into that. Right. Like, to be fair, when English class started going into mythology, like that's the only time I ever paid attention in English class. All right. I'm like, yes, I'll write a report on that shit. We're good. Other than that, I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't say yes or no to it because while I do believe there are civilizations out there that we don't know about yet, whether it be in the past, there's the thing, and I'm not even trying to go to the Hitler route of it, the thing up in Antarctica.
Right.
Of the civilization there that could possibly be Atlantis that just froze over. I do believe in other civilizations that we just don't know about yet because they don't want us to know about them. However, I do not believe they're aliens.
All right. So, yeah. And then to be fair, at that point, you would have to weirdly put a definition on aliens, right?
Well,
I'll just call it life forms. I don't know that there's shit like.
Right. Oh, I mean, nowadays,
according to Sumerian text, there is shit that has visited us. All right. I'll throw that out there.
They believe they were gods, yes.
They did. And ironically enough, their belief in that weird god system has a lot of weird parallels to the Bible.
No, yeah.
If you want to get into a weird religion standpoint.
Well, I mean, let's actually look at it. Like, all right, if we want to get into the religious thing out there, I know there's a bunch of debate out there. Is the Bible real because it was written by man? And I hate that fucking argument because textbooks and scientific journals were written by man, but you believe those wholeheartedly, so shut the fuck up about that. But I know, I got off track.
You know me, though. I'm the theologian. I kind of believe a little bit of all of it.
You right, and that's the thing is there's a similarity between all of them. I do believe in the Bible, yes. I, however, do not believe in what man has made it out to be. And I want to preface this by saying I do believe this is a guideline for us to live our lives to be all about a good person. Yes.
Overall, it's kind of a moral story. Right?
Yes. However, mankind has made it out to be this. This is how we control people. So therefore, it goes away from the spiritual aspect of it and goes into the religious aspect of it, to where now I can control. Now I can control the masses by being its puppeteer, by saying, if you don't do this, you're going to go to hell, or one of the versions of hell. And to be fair, Christianity didn't start until a certain point in history.
Sure.
Because they just didn't have that at the time. There was no Christ to be the bridge between that. So, yes, Sumerians could have had it right. Maybe God did come down and visit them, and what we know as God did come down and
what we know as God, yes. Period.
Well, I just believe in one. That's all I need. But maybe he did come down. Maybe he did come down and visit them and say, like, hey, this is kind of how things are supposed to be done. This is the right way. This is the good way to do it. And, you can follow me or not. I just came down from the sky, but hard to tell. I can't, that's where faith comes in.
I'm going to give a shout out to my guy, Kevin Hearn, right now.
Yeah.
Listeners, if you take anything out of this weird fucking round table that you're listening to right now, go grab yourselves a copy of the Iron Druid Chronicles.
Yeah, it's a good series.
Good fucking series. Yeah, it's probably written for like older teenagers. It's a fun fucking series.
Oh, yeah.
It goes over all the pantheons, and I don't necessarily disagree. I think to an extent, all of them are right in their own aspect to an extent.
Right, and you can get into the aspect of, were they actually angels? Were they actually angels? Coming down to guardian angels per se.
Or were they fucking aliens?
Or were they demonic beings? Well, I mean, I'm sorry, but if I was...
It's all good.
Hold on.
No.
If I was in ancient Samaria and I saw an angel come down from heaven, I would probably believe it was an alien. Like, I'm not going to lie. Probably be like, you don't normally see that. I can't discount that. Because for all intents purposes, they would be aliens at that time. They're not from this earth. To me, that's what I deem as alien. Not from this earth. Meteorites are alien to them because they're not from this earth. They're not from this sphere that we live on. I can't really speak to the Sumerian or anything that happened before the year I was born because, yes, there's history out there, but history is told by those who want it. So I can't really say if it was true or if there was more details out there of what happened. Because let's be honest, humans, we have a shit memory on things. And what really happened versus what we remember is a completely different aspect of what actually is.
All right.
So
what I'll do as far as breaking down my belief in life somewhere else is I will break it down in the simplest terms from everybody. There's one thing that we know of for sure. Scientifically, it's a thing called the Goldilocks zone, right?
Yeah.
It is the definition of point A to point B from a star, in our case, the sun, in which life can exist. Right now, we know of at least 16 planets that sit in a Goldilocks zone. That said...
Don't ask me to recite them.
That said, the way I look at it is this. If a planet can have water, it has life. Period. If you have an aquarium, you know this. You can put water in it, and as soon as the sun hits it, bacteria will grow. Period. And that's just from water. Bacteria is life. Now, whether that evolves to whatever state, and the ironic part is, if we sit back and we look at it as nowadays, there are groups of primates in Asia right now, and along that coast, that we are watching use Stone Age tools now.
Oh, yeah.
So, though I am not one of the... I'm not like a weird evolutionist, right? As in, like, we weren't created, yada, yada, yada. But I know that evolution itself is real, right? As far as, like, snakes growing legs and turning into lizards. Like, that's a fucking actual fact that happened. We have legless lizards. We have snakes now, you know? Or vice versa. So, evolution happens from single cells to whatever the fuck we are. The popular theory, hypothesis, among many people smarter than I am, I'm saying that again because I don't have any facts to back this up. I don't fucking know. But it's funny that most of the people outside of the fucking, I almost said Zach Bagginses of the world, outside of the Zach Bagginses of the alien world, right?
Right.
Everybody else is a goddamn scientist. Astrophysicists. Those people know more about fucking science than I do, for sure.
So
I'm not saying they're right. I'm just saying they know more about science than I do. Right.
Let me for those who do not know, what is a Goldilocks planet?
Goldilocks planet is, again, I don't know the exact like dimensions. So all I can say is point A to point B from the central sun that they revolve around.
I just think it's a string of planets that life can be sustainable.
Generally, they are known to have a body of water.
So, specifically, a Goldilocks planet, for those who are unaware.
Yes, give us the definition because I'm sure you already Googled it.
I actually already knew this one.
I do. I just don't know how to put it into words. So.
A Goldilocks planet is any planet that holds a temperature constant enough for water to remain liquid, not frozen or evaporated into a gas.
You're out.
So that's the part that I did, in fact, Google is which ones in our solar system are considered Goldilocks planets. Obviously,
our solar system,
we have Saturn, Mars, and Venus.
Okay.
All of them have the correct temperature to hold liquid water. With that said, there has not been any liquid water found on any of those planets besides Earth. And then we were talking about Ceres. There is actually liquid water on Ceres.
which is weird and kind of an outlier because, again, it doesn't hold the same rotation around the sun that we do. In fact, it's supposedly weirdly only seen like every, like, it's a long time. It's not.
Sirius's orbit passes by Earth basically every 4.5 Earth years.
Yeah. So, like, and again,
It's just so weird if you think about it, because it seems incredibly slow on Earth time, but in space time, that's fast.
Yeah, it's like moving. It's trucking.
well, then you also have to take into consideration like gravitational pull and wobble, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So our moon technically is the only reason that we have gravity enough that we don't like wobble off of our fucking axis.
Right.
That said, scientifically, every year, the moon travels 1.5 inches away from the Earth. 1.49 if you want to get super technical.
Yeah.
So at some point,
We might wobble off.
we're going to wobble off.
Wobbly, wobbly, wobbly.
And at some point, we're going to fall out of that Goldilocks zone. It's not going to be in our lifetime. It's not.
No, for sure no.
You know, we live, 100 years on the longer end of things on average.
Yeah.
We're not going to see in our lifetime the Earth wobble off. How long we've been in this Goldilocks zone, I couldn't fucking tell you. You don't know. I don't know. I'm not a fucking scientist. How long it takes to travel outside of that? Because again, the moon's moving away. How long have we been here? I don't know.
That is a subject of great debate.
So,
Scientifically speaking,
There we
they
go.
say that Earth has been in the Goldilocks zone for approximately 3.5 billion years.
okay. And on average, scientifically speaking, how long does a planet remain in said thing? How long does a star last before it explodes like the sun?
Well, so Earth is not a star.
I was referring to the sun when I said the star.
Thankfully, it won't explode. Now,
No, we know of.
The sun will burn out.
oh yeah. So there have actually been a whole lot of theories, and most of them have been like
I mean, they're all theories.
sort
Right.
of doomsday theories about, oh
Yeah.
my God, the sun already burned out, but we're still seeing the light because it's so far away. Well, science has said no, that's horseshit. Please don't worry about it. The sun has not yet burnt out.
Calm down. We're good, Karen.
They are estimating that
Fake news.
Exactly, fake news.
It's gonna blow.
They are estimating that our sun probably has, based on its size relative to other stars of the same size and how much it burns and how much fuel is on it, they're guesstimating 7 to 8 billion more years.
Now,
So not in our lifetime. Cool.
Yeah, it's super not
Again,
happening anytime soon.
Listen, if it was 1,000 years from now, it's not in our lifetime. All right?
Right.
Sure.
But so the irony is, so the weird part of that is I have read studies, and I don't know how much you guys are up to par on this, but I have read studies where our solar system is ironically creating enough gravitational pull that it's pulling other solar systems into it.
That is correct. I have heard that as well.
And that's where some of these weird,
And
like,
that's weird.
I read one story about a planet that's only seen like every 4,200 years.
Yep. Which,
How do you measure that? Nobody's
Right.
lived 4,200 years.
yeah. So
You know what I mean?
again, it's all a guessing game. It really is. I don't care how much scientific data you throw at it, there's no way you could probably estimate. There's not a shot in hell.
All right.
I don't
So
care if Neil deGrasse Tyson was sitting right here beside me, I'd tell him the same thing.
I'd tell him he's full of shit. Not that I listen.
About that.
All right. Let me define that in two ways. First off, I will tell you that he is a million times smarter than I am. All right. As far as certain things, he's a fucking astrophysicist. I
Right.
get it. All right. But for him to be like, I know this, I'd be like, you're full of shit. Nobody knows that. It's a hypothesis. It's theory. Right? Most things are a hypothesis and theory.
It's hypothetical.
It's a hypothetical.
Yeah.
Either way. To be fair,
You ever play the game Craps?
Science, and just to sort of round out the end of that thought, science suggests that with the rotation of Earth and the Sun and the way that our orbits bring us together and the slight movement that our planet makes in orbit, each rotation,
it's like wobble.
exactly, with our wobbly,
Timey one.
Earth should be habitable for human life for about another 1 billion to 1.5 billion years. After that, we're toast. We're too close to the sun. We're absolute toast.
I mean,
so
be
humans
fair,
cannot scientifically exist for more than about another billion and a half years.
I mean,
and then we're done.
To be fair, so, and this is where, like, you know, people and their weird, like, climate change thing, I'm like, there's science that proves that, like, it's not us. This is just a part of science that fucking happens, right? Again, according to science, our moon travels away from us like an inch and a half every year.
Yeah.
Like, how far does our moon get away from us before our gravitational, it stopping our wobble no longer stops our wobble? You know what I mean? And at that point, there's global fucking catastrophes that happen. We're probably all going to die.
They actually estimate that we will get too close to the sun for inhabitable human life on planet Earth long before the moon gets too far away.
Again, at 1.5 inches a year. Look, I'm assuming it has to get a couple of fucking miles.
Pretty far,
right?
Pretty far.
And that's a couple of thousand fucking years, million fucking years before it gets a mile away from us.
But wouldn't evolution change it, though?
Uh,
Wouldn't they make the human race adaptable to that?
So here's the trick.
And also, are we fodder for the sun?
All right.
Yeah.
Here's the
Is
trick.
that how the solar system works?
Yeah, but
Here's the trick, and this is where it
Everything
all
is.
ties down into the rabbit hole that I went down, right? So I went down the Anunnaki rabbit hole. I mean, I didn't fucking go down a rabbit hole. I fell into the goddamn Grand Canyon is what happened.
Okay.
All right? Anunnaki are kind of the ancient Sumerian religion, but they actually didn't call it a religion. They literally called it fucking space people.
Yeah.
also it's not an inch and a half.
I'm literally
As
Googled it.
usual.
It's 1.49 inches.
As usual, guys are off in size.
Actually, according to NASA, it says the moon is moving away from Earth at about 3.78 centimeters per year.
Yeah, which is 1.49 inches.
3 centimeters is
3.78 centimeters is 1.49 inches.
for real?
Yeah.
That's not what this suggested.
Just
Interesting.
put it into a fucking
So-
calculator.
They're saying, yeah, anyway, point is, they're saying 5 billion years. 5 billion years before the moon perceivably could escape Earth's gravity.
And again, well, I don't know, it could be a billion. Either way, again, as I started this conversation, not in our lifetime, ever.
Yeah.
No. But I don't know.
Anunnaki. Oh my God. Listen, listeners, listen to somebody smarter than me. Go down the Anunnaki rabbit hole. It's fucking fun.
It is fun.
It's kind of amazing. It's fucking fun.
It actually got me a detention.
And I will roll that into
Beautiful bean footage.
when we start to wrap up here, probably not super long from now because this is already a super thick fucking episode, and we're gonna fucking revisit this when. Look, I'm 43, Joe's 44. I'll be 44 in a month. All right,
Still older.
my memory is not what it used to be.
So I'm going to put a pin in all of this because I do definitely want to mention this gentleman who approached and before the episode is.
Right. I apologize. I actually kind of wanted you to lead off with that, so I'm sorry that I.
Yeah, we went a little. I attempted, and yeah, it's okay.
I just wanted to do the introductions and then let you go in with that.
Yeah. So, as I was saying at the beginning of the episode, there was a gentleman who actually approached us in our LinkedIn by the name of Robert Stanley. He is a researcher and an author. I did look through, he actually sent me quite a few things and a few really good articles as well. So on looking through those, one of the articles that he wrote was actually called "You Can Handle the Truth." And it's sort of
like
a blog/article. What he is covering is that there was actual what they consider photographic evidence of two Anunnaki entities, which they call the Shining Ones, that visited the Capitol building, so quite literally the White House.
On and key.
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry.
Okie
ahead.
dokie. And there are photos. Were you correcting my pronunciation? Say it again.
No. On and key. On is
You ever see Logan's Run?
On is the creator of the heavens in the Anunnaki, and Ki is kind of in charge of the Earth.
Okay.
They also had a child called Anki.
Super.
Carry on.
Random facts about that.
There's some. There's several photographs actually. So it took place around a sighting of UFOs at the White House. It was actually July 16th of 2022. There were some authenticated 35 millimeter photographs that were taken showing a large glowing ball of light right above the Capitol building. And then there were quite a bit more balls of light that were like little smaller things that sort of almost seemed to be sort of hovering in a basic formation above the Capitol building as well. And there were several pictures that were taken and by multiple different people, including the government. And lots of people actually saw this stuff. And interestingly enough, Robert Stanley himself actually witnessed this stuff. So he wrote this article talking about it. And the big idea was that when this first happened, there were like a whole bunch of crazy government, like, oh no, that didn't happen. Oh no, I don't know what you're talking about. Oh no, weather balloons, weather patterns. Oh, it was lightning. Oh, it was a bug on the lens. All kinds of crazy shit to try to cover this up. So it basically ended up being what you would consider a government cover-up. So he wrote 2 books. And mind you, this man did literal decades of research on UFOs around the Capitol building and then, of course, in other places as well. One of the books is called Close Encounters on Capitol Hill. It is 2006. He printed this first in October of 2006. There is a lot here about military intelligence. Some of the chapters that go down talk about alien engines at Area 51, meaning he believed that there literally was an engine of an alien spacecraft in Area 51. Earthbound extraterrestrials, UFO tech talk, interdimensional intelligence, etc., etc. I will post a link where you can download the PDF of this book. It is a very interesting read. It is long. It is about 415 pages, but it is very interesting to say the least. So if you are into UFOs, this one is good. He's kind of a quintessential, and there actually have been a lot of really interesting things that have happened to him since then. So right not long after, he published the article, he's, doing his research. There are actually unmarked military helicopters, flying over his house, where they absolutely should not have been. To the point that it was probably pretty freaking unnerving. He never said that he saw any men in black or anything like that, but they most definitely made their presence felt.
Yeah.
In what was taken as, this is government stuff, shut your mouth. So the second book that he wrote, he released in 2011, and it was actually called Covert Encounters in Washington, D.C. So this one is about the same length. It's 422 pages, but it goes on and it talks about different years, things that happened in different years. So the beginning in the 40s, the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. And then he goes through and he actually goes year by year. Chapter 8 is all about the year 2000, 01, 2, all the way up to 2011. And the different things that he found during his investigations and the different things that made him feel like these were cover-ups. He actually has reports of DC UFO reports that are real documents from the federal government talking about things like that, different sightings. And, 14 days later, a UFO was sighted in the restricted airspace over Washington, D.C., et cetera, et cetera. So this is some really interesting shit. The government obviously believes that these things existed, and definitely Robert Stanley does as well. Now, mind you, we're talking about UFOs. We're not really talking about aliens here. And to be perfectly honest with you, I did not get his take on aliens. However, I could probably just ask him, hey, do you think those UFOs had aliens in them?
I think that you should, because I think we should do a part 2.
a part 2. Yes.
Down like the clock.
And we can 100% discuss the entire thing. So I'm going to make positive that it's okay with him. I'm pretty sure that it is because he did say, here, share this, etc., etc. So I'm fairly positive that it is, but I'm going to make certain. And then I will go ahead and post the link to his article, the link to where you can get the PDFs on both of his books. And, let's just for those of you out there who, whether you believe or not is irrelevant, if you have curiosity in any form in UFOs and especially government conspiracy cover-ups of UFOs, then this is right up your alley.
So, anyways, just for a split moment, what I was talking about with the Goldilocks zone, and even if it's just 5-6 billion years that your planet is allowed to live in this before it goes too far, right? The popular hypothesis, theory, whatever the fuck you want to call it, is that consider life on Earth a toddler.
Yeah.
That is us, civilizations, period. Think about how far we've come with, right now, AI.
Yeah.
If you took your cell phone and you went back in time 2,000 years, you'd be a goddamn mage.
I don't know what
or
God
burned at the stake.
I don't know what God had anything to do with that.
Both, right?
Yeah.
Either way, take God out of it. Whatever. Point being, you'd be a mage, right? You have magic, witchcraft, whatever the fuck they call it at the time.
Yep. Well, just even because I know, funny thought. Imagine a Karen going back in time about 2,000 years.
But
they would be unprepared
the
for that.
ironic scientific hypothesis of the matter is you have from point A to point B in this Goldilocks zone, and unless you learn to be able to live outside of that Goldilocks zone by whatever means possible, your civilization is done.
Right.
It's game over.
Human life, obviously other things could probably adapt, but I don't want to talk about the other 2.5 billion species on the earth, but humans, we require water for life.
It's true. I mean, there's some frogs in Australia that would just freeze to death.
I don't think that life will find a way if there is no more water.
Evolution? Life finds a way to adapt?
Well, let's talk about all of the shit that lives in places on Earth right now where it shouldn't live.
Well, I mean, I'm not saying that doesn't exist. But
no, and I agree with you.
But again,
actually,
to be fair, that's proving your point. Human life, yeah. We're out.
Again, though, they're saying that the Goldilocks zone is where the temperature is correct to create liquid water. Well, if the planet gets too hot and water is gone, then we can always condense it. Okay, cool. If, the planet gets too cold and all the water is frozen, then we melt it and we have water anyway. I can't think of a reason why Earth would just simply have no more water. It would have to be something pretty crazy.
Except that it gets too far and it freezes.
Well, then we still have water. It's just ice and we just have to melt it.
Closer?
We are actually moving closer to the sun.
So it would I don't know.
Burn up. It would evaporate.
Before then it would evaporate and be gone, just like supposedly Mars.
But we have an
but
it couldn't happen. Our atmosphere will trap it. So as it evaporates, our atmosphere traps it, turns it into clouds, and it becomes rain again. There's always going to be water, liquid water in some form. There will be water in some form on Earth, period.
Oh, you mean that thing that back in the 80s, all the girls with the Aquanet destroyed our atmosphere?
That's the biggest crack of shit that ever existed.
Those of you who don't know what Aquanet is, better off.
Just talk to your 80s cousins. Good.
There most definitely are spots in our atmosphere that are thinning. That is extremely truthful. However, we do still have an atmosphere. And it's okay. It's pretty strong. It's pretty healthy at this moment. We are making strides to fix it. But, and then people want to talk about, oh, well, the atmosphere is dying because, global warming is becoming a thing, which means that that the atmosphere must be thinning out, which is allowing in more heat, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That is, very unfortunately, that is just a lack of education. The reason why Earth is going through a period of warming, this is something that has happened to Earth since the time that Earth began.
We're also reaching that 10,000 year mark.
That's right.
Yeah.
Earth goes through periods before humans ever existed.
Where within a few periods we'll be going back into an ice age.
Oh. Yeah, before. Oh, thanks. before humans ever existed, before humans were glints in the thought process, Earth had its natural periods of cooling and warming,
Right.
where the oceans would recede and the temperatures would go up, and et cetera, and then all of a sudden, everything,
Remember,
starts
we are
going.
the parasite.
Exactly. Everything starts going the other way, and then, things are freezing and the ice caps build back up and blah, 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 blah. It happens. This is just the way Earth has always been, and we just are along for the ride right now.
To be fair, we're along for the ride forever. All right. Like when it decides to quit,
It's done. Yeah, we're done.
game over. Like you don't get to choose.
Earth has been behaving this way long before we got here, and it will be behaving this way long after we leave here. So that's, yeah. Welcome to Earth, third rock from the sun.
Two things I want to touch on real quick, right? First, the point being, my major point being, like when you go from point A in the Goldilocks zone, whether you're getting closer or further, doesn't matter. When you get from point A and you're heading towards point B, you have X amount of years, generations, billions of years to figure it out. Or your species is just done. Maybe you're talking about some Deep Space Nine shit where you're just like, nope, we figured it out, we're out.
Knowing humans will wait until the last semester to do it.
It's true. Yep. Whatever. I've been on this planet long enough that I don't trust anybody that. But one other thing that I wanted to touch on before I get into the last point and where it actually touches on maybe the spiritual realm of things.
Okay.
As far as UFOs go, right now, the Michigan Tech Aerospace, it's college in Michigan.
Yeah.
So one thing that we didn't touch on that when we revisit this, I'd like to touch on is Element 115, which basically literally has so the half-life of Element 115 is roughly 0.65 seconds. That's half of its life. So it's like a second before it burns out and it's not usable anymore.
Right.
Supposedly there may or may not be some scientists that have figured out how to stabilize this, and they may or may not be like chased after right now. But Element 115 was the anti-gravitational element.
Yeah.
That said, in Michigan Tech right now, they have so this is going to make you giggle a little bit, Teresa, because you and I have a very similar friend that went on a drunken tirade one night sitting in Strawberry Plains in Tennessee.
About magnetic engines?
About a magnetic engine, right?
Dino, here's looking at you.
Dino, here's looking at you. Michigan Tech Aerospace right now is looking at an ionic liquid ferrofluid microthruster.
Interesting.
Advances in satellite computational and communication systems have allowed smaller satellites to perform missions which could previously have only been accomplished with much larger and more expansive spacecraft. One enabling technology for these satellites is a scalable and efficient method of maneuvering tiny vehicles in space. Existing propulsion technologies, which are deployed on larger class satellites, cannot be scaled down in size while maintaining their performance. One promising solution, micropropulsion, is called electrospray. The method of propulsion uses electrical energy to accelerate atomized liquid propellant to produce thrust. Traditionally, this method of propulsion requires a needle-like structure to generate electrical stresses needed to spray the fluid. In 2012, members of the Ion-Based Propulsion Lab demonstrated a novel method of electrospray using ferrofluids. Ferrofluids are magnetic liquids that can be manipulated with the use of magnets. These fluids are in the presence of a magnetic field. The fluid interface naturally deforms into a series of peaks and valleys, referred to as the Rosenweig instability. The tips of these peaks, the electric field is amplified, and the electrospray emission can be achieved. The result is a thruster composed of many small peaks, each producing jets of ions. That assembly itself is out of the propellant. Michigan Tech has a pending patent for this ionic liquid ferrofluid propulsion technology. Basically, they think they can beat gravity with this. This is how strong this magnet engine thruster is.
Please take you videos of that.
This is some quite literally like some fucking Star Trek bullshit going on right here.
Defy gravity. Yeah. Right.
So it's funny because our buddy was talking about
Aha.
this magnetic engine. Tee-hee-hee, giggle.
Yeah, he literally went off on like an hour and a half long tirade about how he would create a magnetic engine so you never ever would need fuel again or batteries or any of that. And then he took the time to break it down and explain to us in scientific terminology exactly how it would work. And I will be completely honest, I was way too high to retain any of that information. And then they offered me Perkins, and I was happy again. Yeah. For those who don't know, Perkins is a southern restaurant. Yummy, yummy.
It's up here too. We've still got one.
So,
Passed one today.
full
My
disclosure.
dumbass thought she was making a turn for Percocet.
No.
Perkins. Oinkins.
Full disclosure, I do not smoke weed anymore. So, and it has actually been quite a while. So, yeah.
All right. Anyway.
Well, I'm actually job hunting at the moment, so I want everybody to know I can pass a drug screen, guys. It's okay to hire me.
That was her.
It's irrelevant at this point.
We are no Lights Paranormal, not Indeed.
Right.
But if you're looking,
So,
But if you happen to run across me, I can pass a drug screen.
ironically, the last thing I don't want to touch on that I found interesting, and to preface this, I want to tell everybody out there before they listen to our next rabbit hole podcast, whenever that may be, for sure, go down the Anunnaki rabbit hole. Like it's worth the trip. It's fun. It's interesting. It's just interesting to listen to.
and read.
So, going back to what my wife was saying, and going back to what I interjected with, An and Kai had a son named Ankai.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the ancient tablets, it is said that Ankai created host bodies.
Yeah.
He went through periods of time where he was just energy
Yeah.
transferring from one body to another.
Yeah.
Which I found super interesting, considering we're ghost hunters, considering the one thing that doesn't die, according to science,
Is energy.
is energy itself.
50-50 on that.
It always goes somewhere.
50-50
right?
on what?
If energy actually dies. You should have just seen that.
Are we going to turn this 2-hour podcast into a 3-hour podcast? I'm down for it.
No. I know it doesn't. I'm just saying it might not be as powerful. So in a sense, it does actually die off. It just might not be as energy once in a while gets used up. It's. I know you're scientific. And you're like, oh, I read a test. I don't give a shit.
Listeners, I wish you could just see my wife staring at Joe right
There's
now.
a vein popping out.
Mildly hilarious. Listen, I try to bring up weird scientific shit about aliens, and they're like, you're fucking nuts. Joe's like, I think energy might die. And my wife's like, the fuck is wrong with you?
No, like anything else, it needs a recharge. So it's like a cycle. That's why I said I'm 50-50. It might not die, but it gets dull.
Well, I mean, to me, I guess it would all be about like energy transference, right? Like it goes from somewhere to somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't think it dies. It just goes somewhere else.
Right. That's
You know
what
what I
I
mean?
was saying. That's why I said I'm 50-50. I don't think it dies, but it definitely goes dormant after a while. I'm going to get murdered.
Transference of energy is the energy's quote unquote power fluctuating. Energy never actually runs out of fundamentally what it is, which is energy, which sounds really stupid to say energy never runs out of energy. But yeah.
In a 40-year-old body, I can say that's a lie.
Right? Your 40-year-old body runs out of
Burn to your offspring, you know?
Yeah, your 40-year-old body runs out of
Fucking
energy.
run around like an idiot.
No, never had one.
That's fair.
But that's not your electromagnetic energy. That's depleting. That's, muscular and organ energy and things like that.
I know.
But yeah, you are partially correct in the idea that the transference of energy from one item to another, or one, I don't even know how I want to say it, one way of being to another, I guess. I don't know. That is the fluctuation. So yeah, that is sort of the depletion and charge is the transfer is the depletion and charge. So yeah.
Okay. Anyways, I think we've talked long enough.
I just thought it was an interesting point. That's all. I was
No,
like,
it was.
wow, okay. So this guy just was between bodies for
Well, I mean,
X amount of years.
if you think about it, in all religions, we have the afterlife. God himself is
there's
energy.
the act of rebirth, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. That was it.
She's
There's a lot of smiles sitting around this table
my
right
demise
now.
right
I don't
now.
know. It's going to be great.
No, because like I don't have a fundamental problem with what you said, because the transference of energy is in fact how it
Because you looked at me like you wanted to stab
fluctuates.
me in the face.
that was just certain phrases. Fundamentally, what you said is accurate.
So what you're saying is there could be aliens, and they could.
I'm most definitely not saying it.
We didn't even get into third dimensional beings.
And that's the shit of it. That's the shit of it.
way different.
We 100% did not talk about aliens in this episode.
No, we did. It's just we were going around the rabbit hole of what are they? Where do they come from? What are the other cultures, societies, what do they deem it as?
Yeah, but then we started talking about Earth and gravitational
Define
pull
aliens.
and stuff
You-
like that. So
Right now, define aliens for me.
an alien,
Yeah. What's an alien?
pretty much anything we don't know about is the definition of alien.
Well, by that definition, there's shit on the bottom of the ocean that I don't know about.
The
Is that an
female
alien?
race is alien to me.
You mean the female species?
No, I think they prefer.
What we're
us.
talking about is life on other planets, right?
If you are talking about alien life from other planets, then okie dokie, then there's that.
Alien is just not null. That's it.
Yeah, alien is literally anything that is foreign to us, that is unknown to us.
Okay. So would you say that aliens exist then?
He's trying this so hard.
By the technical definition of aliens, yes, there are aliens all over the place.
Especially in New York.
Yeah, facts.
You're
In Los
welcome for that.
Angeles,
You're
too.
welcome for that.
Throwing little green men out the window, would you say that you believe there are life on other planets?
I believe that there is life on other planets. I do not believe it is even remotely similar to humans.
We're literally debating what is.
Yeah. I've already said things like viruses, things like amoebas. These are living
Atoms.
things. And atoms in general. These are living things. Yes, they exist on other planets.
So aliens are real.
He just wants that. He's like a woman. He just wants that validation.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you in Delaware next week.
Remember that look that I got a little bit ago? He's getting it now.
Don't fuck with the Baba Yaga. We love you.